Hi guys, it's Mai here and I'm coming back at you again with another YouTube video. Today we're doing 6 years on estrogen. Can you believe it? You guys have been with me on this journey and it has been super amazing. It's been super interesting and I'm going to continue to document it for you guys. Just before we get started, I wanted to thank everyone who has been subscribing to me recently. We just hit 200K, so if you like my content, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification. What should the next goal be? 250? 300? I don't know. We'll see how long it takes. Who knows? I also just wanted to say thank you to everyone for your love and support on my gender reassignment surgery video. I did a 1-month post-op video and I'm getting so much love and support on it, so thank you, thank you. And I'm also going to be doing a 2-month post-op video to update you guys on everything on my post-op appointment and stuff, so that'll be coming later. And in this video I'm also going to talk about how being on estrogen and going off of it during my surgery, how it affected me, all that good stuff. I'm also going to be talking about fat redistribution, muscle tone, breast growth, libido, emotional, mental state, all that kind of stuff and more. So stay watching for all the good stuff. So just before we dive into my experience, I wanted to let you guys know about the main forms of estrogen, which is a component used for MTF trans people for hormone replacement therapy. The 3 main categories of estrogen intake are oral tablets. They are sometimes taken sublingually and they pass through your liver and stuff like that. Then there is also the transdermal patches, which you stick on your skin. And then there is also the subcutaneous estradiol valerate injections. And those are obviously injected with needles. The hormones that I started on all the way back when Maya was a baby trans girl was Lupron Depot and estradiol, the oral tablets. And I started on Lupron Depot, which was an amazing hormone blocker. So basically Lupron Depot is a hormone blocker. It cuts off your hormone production at the root, your brain signal telling your organs, whether it's the testicles or the ovaries, to no longer produce those hormones before they're even being made, rather than flushing it out of your system, kind of like spironolactone, which is probably the most popular oral form of blocking your hormones. In order for estradiol, the tablet, to really take full effect, you have to also pair it with a hormone blocker, as most of us know. So I eventually switched to spironolactone a few months after I had began my medical transition. And the reason for that was because Lupron Depot was super expensive and it no longer got covered under my mom's insurance plan. At the time I was only like 18 or 19 years old, and so I wasn't able to afford it while I was in school, so I switched to spironolactone. Spironolactone is kind of a chalky pill, and I would take that pill twice a day, I believe, and it causes you to pee a lot. It's a diuretic and it is a lot more harsh on your system, I would say, because you can be dehydrated easier, and you can also suffer from a condition called hyperkalemia, which is a buildup of potassium because it doesn't allow your body to flush out the potassium as easily. So those are just some of the risks with that. And honestly, I think that spironolactone wasn't great for me. I didn't enjoy taking it, and it didn't make me feel good. I always felt like I had to be drinking water and I was always thirsty. I was on spironolactone for several years with estradiol, and I did notice some decent results through that process. I noticed a little bit of fat redistribution, a little bit of breast growth, all that good stuff. However, it wasn't until I switched to cyproterone acetate, which is another hormone blocker. It's another oral tablet, and that one you take much less of a dose of, and it's a lot more powerful at flushing out your hormones. But it's also an oral tablet, so you take it with estrogen as well. That's where I noticed most of my results, and that's currently what I'm still on today. Spironolactone for me just kind of stopped working over time, and my estrogen levels weren't able to compete with the testosterone anymore. So after 6 years, I can safely say I've noticed a lot of fat redistribution and loss of muscle tone. With testosterone running through your body, you are able to develop muscles easier and your skin isn't as soft to the touch. However, with being on HRT and taking estrogen, I have noticed that it's a lot harder to build muscle. I've noticed that my skin's softer and the tone of my skin is a lot more like squishy. It's not as defined. In some ways it's nice, but in other ways it's like, oh, I wish I still had those ab definitions, you know, you can't win them all. One of the biggest things I noticed since switching to cyproterone acetate was my facial fat redistribution. It's a lot more full looking and a lot more softened compared to before. I always had a little bit more of an angular face, and it was also more slender. It could also be weight gain as well. I did notice a weight gain after taking cyproterone acetate. Your weight and your body and everything is all affected by hormones, and we don't give them enough credit for how much it affects our daily life. Although I did notice a lot of changes when switching to cyproterone acetate, I didn't really notice a lot of breast growth even after changing hormone plans. And so I did opt for a breast augmentation. This is not all estrogen, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to disappoint. I did notice more fat distribution towards my thighs and my butt, and a little bit more towards my upper arms, which is not the best thing. I'm looking forward to being able to do some exercising again once I recover from my surgery, and also hopefully once the gyms reopen at some point. As for body hair and facial hair, I really don't have that much body hair at all, just like the regular underarms and the legs and obviously the pubic hair. But I did notice that it obviously thinned out and went a little bit more blonde, and it's so much easier to shave my legs. I know that before I began transitioning, I tried shaving my legs and I would get so much razor bumps, and the hair was so much thicker and darker and noticeable and would grow back right away, and I thought it was the worst thing ever. But now some things have slowly changed and made life easier. It does get better. One thing that estrogen and hormone replacement therapy won't fix is your facial hair. I've heard this phrase a lot throughout my transition, and it's so true. Estrogen gives, it doesn't take away. It's not going to reverse the puberty that you've gone through, but it will give you more feminine qualities. So with the facial hair, I did have to go and get laser done. I'm also considering electrolysis because I still have like some little bit of scruff on my chin, which I've probably talked about many times before on my channel. And I think that because the hair is blonder, it doesn't get caught by the laser, which focuses on melanin mostly. So I'm gonna have to go through that painful experience, but I'll document it for you guys as always. So yeah, just with like facial hair overall, like nothing's growing back per se, but I do still have a little bit of stuff here and like maybe like on my neck a little bit. I don't know. I do just like run a razor over it every single day. I'm not sure exactly how much hair, but we will figure out over time. Laser worked wonders on my upper lip and stuff like that and really changed my life. Something that isn't always talked about a lot with HRT is your emotional and your mental state. I find that my mental state and my emotions changed a lot when I went on hormone replacement therapy. With the estrogen surging through my system, I find it a lot easier to cry and to be emotional. Obviously, if your hormones are fluctuating a lot, it's not a healthy thing. You should probably see your doctor or make sure you're taking your medication at the same time every day. But obviously there's certain circumstances where that's not always the case and you can't always take your hormones. Especially with my surgery and stuff, I had to go off of hormones and then go back on them again, and so it kind of throws your body out of balance. So I had gone through phases where I feel a little bit emotionally turbulent, like some days where you just don't feel good and there's nothing you can do to feel better because it's just in your mind, it's just your emotions. Like there could be nothing in your life that's going wrong and you just don't feel good that day. I did find that with cyproterone acetate, I had a little bit of depression. It wasn't like severe or anything, but it was just this kind of like sluggish, zombified nature just for like a small period of time. I think it was like really subduing my energy levels and making me a little bit more tired. But your emotional state and your mental health is one of those things that's so interesting to try to be aware of because it starts happening without you even noticing it. It's your mind, it's your brain, it's the way you think. It changes over time, and then you look back 5 years from now and you're like, wow, I've changed so much. I'm quite a different person now. That also just comes with transitioning in general because you are experiencing so much change in your life. So of course you're going to think about things differently and you're going to grow as a person. I also just wanted to talk about some of the risk factors of taking estrogen with hormone replacement therapy because we don't always talk about them a lot. We always accentuate and exaggerate some of our results and want things to come fast and to change our life and make it so amazing. But we also have to be aware of the risks and our health in the long term. Going on HRT for male to female people that transition causes sterilization in the long run. So if you are interested in having children biologically, then you should probably sperm bank before you begin HRT, because many trans women have tried to sperm bank after the fact, after years of being on estrogen, and it does not work. They do not have viable sperm, viable samples. I've seen people like Gigi Gorgeous make videos on this, and it's so important to educate younger people who are about to go on hormones that this is the possibility. You may not want children now, but who can say for the future? It's always good to have your options open. With taking estrogen and blockers, you're also at risk for blood clots. You can have deep vein thrombosis. You're not at high risk the younger you are, but they say if you're over 40, you're at more risk for that, and they recommend you having a treatment like the transdermal patches instead, because the estrogen doesn't have to pass through your liver as well, which is also something in the long term that can cause problems with your kidneys as well with the blockers. So just making yourself aware of the long-term effects and having a plan for that is always good. Another thing that can be affected is your bone health, osteoporosis. If you lack testosterone like completely, then your bone health can deteriorate and you can be at risk for osteoporosis. Another thing that gets affected with hormone replacement therapy is your libido. So I would say when I was taking spironolactone and estradiol, my libido was subdued a bit, but it wasn't completely gone. I would say it was like, if 100 was before HRT, it was probably around like 60. And then when I went on cyproterone acetate, it went down even more. Like maybe it was at like 30 or 40, I don't know. But your mental state can also affect your libido as well. So it's hard to say if it's just the pills or if it's other stuff going on in your life. But I would definitely say I noticed a difference on cyproterone acetate, as it was suppressing my testosterone a lot more and reducing my sex drive. That can be a positive for some people and a negative for others. I kind of felt like it was a little bit of both. I wanted more of a libido because obviously when you're in a relationship, you want to be on the same page as your partner and be able to satisfy each other and each other's needs. However, I kind of knew that I would have a plan long term once I'd had my gender reassignment surgery to eventually work on gaining more of my libido back through processes that I'll mention a bit later. So now I'm going to talk about going off of hormones for gender reassignment surgery, which is what I just recently had in Montreal with Dr. Broussard. And basically he gave me a vaginoplasty where he created a vagina from penile inversion therapy. You guys can go check my post-op video, 1 month post-op, for more information about that. But before that surgery, I had to go off of my hormone pills for 3 weeks. And then I spent just over a week in their intensive care home, and I was off of hormones for that as well. So about a month off of hormones. And I would say after the first week and a half, I started noticing some pretty big changes, reverting back to the state that my body was in prior to transition, which was kind of interesting. My libido went up a lot further. You can have spontaneous erections again. You can start secreting fluids as well again in sexual process. I know this might sound TMI, but I feel like it's very interesting on a scientific level, and I just felt like I needed to talk about it. It's interesting because sometimes you might think, oh, I want my old libido back, but then once you have it, you're like, oh my god, no, like I was happier before. So it's an interesting process to reverse something that you've been on for so long. Obviously there wasn't any long-term effects of being off of it for a month. I did notice that my facial hair was growing back faster, just the facial hair that I already had, and maybe a few extra hairs were growing in as well, which kind of freaked me out, but I'm already planning on having a little bit more electrolysis and laser hair removal, so I'll just catch them all with that. I noticed my leg hairs were growing back faster, but other than that, it wasn't too terrible. Obviously my emotions and my mood were on that roller coaster like I mentioned earlier, so that wasn't fun. But then once I came back home after surgery, I started taking the same cyproterone and estradiol again. And the reason why is the nurses said that you have residual testosterone left in your system for a while after surgery because you had obviously no blockers or anything. And even though the testicles are gone, you still have testosterone circulating in your system from it. So I took the cyproterone acetate and the estradiol, and that's kind of what I've been doing since then. But I'm about to run out of the cyproterone acetate, so I'm just going to start taking estrogen from now on. And it's been around a month and a half, I would say, since my surgery. So I think that all of the testosterone is finally flushing out, and I feel a lot more weight from the estrogen in the past week, I would say. I think that the testosterone has flushed out of my body, and now I feel a lot more estrogen heavy. I'm obviously going to meet with my doctor soon and discuss what options I have going forward, because now I don't need blockers anymore. Thank goodness. I'm so happy to not be taking blockers. I feel like the less pills, the better at this point. So going forward with my doctor, I would like to change up my estrogen plan and my hormone plan in general. I'm very interested in trying the injections or the patches. I'm not sure exactly which ones I've decided on. It'll also be a cost factor as well. That's part of the reason why I haven't changed sooner, is because I didn't know how much it would cost. So I'm gonna look into that and chat with my doctor, because especially after gender reassignment surgery, I've heard that your libido can really drop, and you just are lacking hormones. You're lacking testosterone, you're lacking estrogen, obviously. And so you need to be able to find a balance with that works for you. I've even considered taking a testosterone cream or something, like microdosing, so that I can still have a level that's adequate in order to maintain a libido or anything like that. Obviously, I will update you guys on that process as it happens. I know that a lot of other trans women have switched over to either injections or transdermal, and they've had great results. They've had further breast development, they've had higher sex drives and stuff like that. So I think it's something that's definitely worth looking into, and it's something that I'm going to try to figure out. If you guys have any experience with changing up your hormones and stuff that works for you, just let me know down below, because I feel like we could start like a nice thread on that. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, and most of the people watching this won't be doctors, so we can't recommend what people do, because everyone's going to be different. We're all going to have a different physiognomy. I don't know what word I'm trying. Physiology? That's probably physiology. But regardless, I think that it's important to find something that works for you and to work with your doctor on that. Thank you so much for watching today's video, you guys. I hope it was an interesting update on my journey and my future plans. I will, as always, keep you updated on the future. Don't be afraid to comment, rate, subscribe, follow me on Instagram. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters for always supporting me and for helping me through all of this. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!